The council chamber of the Galactic Assembly was a cathedral of stars. Light streamed through vast crystal walls, bending in colors unknown to human eyes. The sound was not silence. It was a deep, humming awareness, as if the air itself watched and waited. Thousands of alien delegates filled the tiers of the chamber, each species more ancient, more advanced, more certain of its power than the last. Their languages whispered through translation drones, their eyes glimmering with cautious contempt. At the center, 3 humans stood on a platform of silver light. They were small compared to the towering beings around them, fragile creatures of flesh among giants of metal, crystal, and scale. Yet their posture was not of fear. They stood straight, their hands still, their faces calm. Ambassador Rhea Morgan's voice broke the quiet first. "Representatives of the Council," she began, her tone steady, "Earth acknowledges the summons. But before this trial begins, let me remind you that no law, however old, stands above truth." Her words hung in the air. The Speaker of the Council, a massive creature of translucent skin and pulsing blue veins, shifted. "Truth?" it echoed. "Your kind stands accused of violating galactic law. You have expanded beyond your system, built weapons forbidden by ancient accords, and refused to submit to council oversight." Rhea's second delegate, Captain Elias Vance, narrowed his eyes. "Oversight? You mean control." His voice was quiet but sharp. A low murmur rippled through the assembly. The speaker's color darkened. "You are guests here, human. Choose your words carefully." The third human, Dr. Leif Durant, spoke for the first time. "We are not guests. We were summoned." His tone was polite but cold. "And since you summoned us, perhaps you should tell us what law binds a species that was never part of your council." The room shifted uneasily. Holograms of star systems hovered between them, showing a blue planet orbiting a yellow sun, Earth shining in its smallness. Around it, red symbols marked forbidden zones. An elder alien from the far right rose. It looked like a being carved of stone, its eyes molten gold. "The law is older than this age," it said. "Your world was sealed under the Treaty of Silence. No species was to rise from that system. No signal. No flame." The words spread like a cold wind. Every alien turned toward the humans. Some glared. Others looked uneasy. Rhea tilted her head slightly. "Sealed?" she asked. "By whose command?" The speaker turned toward an ancient figure sitting apart from the others, cloaked in shimmering threads of light. Its skin seemed more air than matter, its form faint and ghostly. It did not move, but its presence was felt by every living being in the chamber. The speaker bowed. "By his," the figure rose slowly. The hall darkened. The being's voice was deep and soft, carrying more weight than thunder. "The seal was placed 10,000 cycles ago," it said, "because once humans walked among the stars, and the stars bled." Gasps and echoes filled the hall. The humans exchanged looks, uncertain if it was accusation or myth. Rhea stepped forward. "You claim our species existed before?" The ancient being nodded. "You were erased. We erased you." The silence that followed was not peaceful. It was suffocating. Dr. Durant's brow furrowed. "If that is true," he said slowly, "then you already know what happens when someone tries to erase us." The ancient being stared at him. For the first time, a flicker of something passed through its eyes. Fear. The speaker slammed its staff onto the ground. "Enough. This assembly will decide the fate of your species. Earth has 1 cycle to surrender its military and scientific assets. Refusal will mean subjugation." Elias smiled faintly. "You mean war?" Several alien representatives hissed in outrage. "You dare threaten the council?" one shouted. Rhea raised her hand. "No," she said calmly. "We don't threaten. We prepare." A murmur spread across the chamber again. The humans' composure unsettled them. They expected pleading, fear, apology. Not defiance wrapped in logic. The speaker's voice dropped. "You are not ready for what the council can unleash." Rhea looked up, her eyes glinting under the pale light. "Neither are you." The ancient being, the one who had spoken of the erased age, leaned forward. "Ambassador Morgan," it said, "do you even know what your kind truly is?" Rhea met its gaze without flinching. We know enough. We remember enough. And we learn faster than you think. The being's faint outline wavered, as if a memory had struck it. Do not provoke them, it whispered. The words not meant for the humans, but for the council itself. The speaker turned sharply. Ancient Theron, your place is advisory only. Speak not in riddles. Theron's form flickered again. You think they are new, he said softly. You think they are weak. But the last time humans walked the stars, the skies turned to fire and your empires burned. The chamber broke into chaos. Dozens of voices argued, shouted, demanded proof. But Rhea stood still, watching the storm unfold. Elias leaned toward her. He's not lying, he murmured. They're scared. Rhea's lips curved slightly. Good. Fear is the first sign of memory. The speaker demanded order. Enough! The humans will remain under observation. The council fleet will secure the Sol system. The judgment will continue once their submission is confirmed. The human delegation did not move. Rhea looked straight at the speaker. Earth does not submit. We never have. We never will. The speaker's color shifted violently. Then your species seals its own fate. The platform of light beneath them began to dim, signaling the end of the session. But before they were dismissed, Rhea spoke once more. Her voice was calm, but it carried across the entire chamber. You summoned us because you fear what we might become, she said. But your fear is misplaced. You should fear what you already made us. The chamber fell silent again. As the humans were escorted out, every alien eye followed them, not with superiority, but with unease. The word of the ancient being echoed faintly through the minds of all who heard it. Do not provoke them. Outside the chamber, the humans walked through the vast corridors of the Galactic headquarters, a city built on a world that orbited no sun. Ships from 1,000 species glided in the skies above. The humans moved between them like shadows among giants. Elias glanced at the endless spires stretching toward the dark void. They think we're cornered, he said. Rhea nodded. Let them think that. Dr. Durant's hand brushed against the small data capsule hidden in his coat. The capsule held something they had not shown the council, something discovered deep beneath the ice of Europa. He said nothing, only walked beside them, silent and watchful. As their shuttle lifted from the platform, the vast council hall faded behind them. But in its heart, the ancient being remained still, eyes fixed on the stars outside. He spoke quietly to no one. The cycle turns again, and the humans remember. Above the council world, in the cold expanse of space, the blue sphere of Earth shimmered faintly on the holographic map. The other delegates saw a small planet. The Ancient One saw a wound that the galaxy had tried and failed to heal, and far away, on that small world, something beneath the crust of the Pacific stirred, a pulse too deep for sensors. Too old for names. The humans were not preparing for war. They were remembering it. The lights in the Galactic Council chamber dimmed to a cold silver hue. The session had been recalled only hours after the humans' departure, and tension thickened the air like smoke. The council members spoke in low, urgent tones. Some wanted immediate military action. Others whispered about the warning from the ancient being. Every representative present had seen the humans' composure, their defiance, and something about it unsettled them deeply. The speaker struck the floor with the staff of order. Let this emergency session begin, it declared. The human delegation has refused compliance. The council must decide, contain or destroy. The moment those words echoed, the chamber's atmosphere changed. Images of Earth floated in the air, spinning slowly. The small blue planet looked harmless compared to the empires that ruled thousands of stars. Yet the council could not shake the feeling that they had looked into the eyes of something they could not control. A voice spoke from the shadows at the rear of the chamber. Containment will fail. It was the ancient being, Theron. His form shimmered like mist caught in starlight, and when he moved, the chamber fell silent. Even the speaker did not interrupt him. Theron stepped forward slowly. You call them young, he said. But I remember when their kind stood before the old empires. They built suns, bent gravity, and spoke to the void as if it were alive. You think them new, but they are echoes of something older than you can understand. The speaker's voice trembled with restrained anger. You tell us stories from another age. My kind was not yet born then. Your warnings are ancient legends. Theron's gaze shifted to the holographic image of Earth. Legends keep you alive, he murmured. And some legends do not die. They wait. The chamber broke into an argument. Dozens of species shouted at once, each voice layered through the translation drones. Some demanded preemptive strikes. Others said to watch and learn. A few said nothing at all. They were too afraid. On the distant human vessel returning to Sol, Ambassador Rhea Morgan watched the same council feed being broadcast to her. She stood on the command deck beside Captain Elias Vance, her expression unreadable. They're debating our extinction like it's a business transaction, Elias said bitterly. Rhea did not look away from the screen. Let them debate. Every minute they spend talking gives us time to prepare. Dr. Leif Durant approached from the side. His hands were shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of what he carried. The data from Europa, he said quietly. It's authentic. We found artificial structures under the ice, older than any known civilization. Not alien, human, Elias frowned. You're sure? Durant nodded. The material is beyond anything we can make. The energy readings match nothing on record. The AI we uncovered there called itself Etherian. He hesitated. It said it was waiting for us. Rhea turned sharply. Waiting? Yes, Durant said. It claimed to be the memory of something called the First Terran Dominion. It knew about the Council. It knew about the treaty they mentioned, the one that sealed Earth. Elias leaned forward. So the ancient being wasn't lying. Durant looked out the viewport, where the stars drifted like cold fire. No, he said softly. He was remembering. Back in the council chamber, the debate grew louder. An enormous being covered in crystalline plates rose from its seat. Enough of these ghost stories, it thundered. Humans are reckless and unpredictable. They spread fast. Their technology jumps centuries and decades. If they continue unchecked, they will destabilize every border world. The council must act. Another delegate, smaller and cloaked in silver mist, replied calmly, And if Theron is right, what happens when you strike a species that once reshaped stars? What if the memory he speaks of is not myth, but code hidden in their blood? The speaker turned toward Theron. Tell us what you know. Theron's eyes flickered with a faint light, as if starlight pulsed through his veins. My kind were archivists, he said. We recorded the fall of empires. When the first human age ended, the skies burned with machines that thought like gods. The other races united to seal them away. You think you are their judges, but you are their descendants' jailers. Whispers filled the hall. Some delegates refused to believe it. Others looked at one another with silent dread. The speaker's voice was low. If what you say is true, then why did they not awaken sooner? Because they forgot, Theron said. And perhaps that was mercy. The debate ended without decision. The speaker called for a temporary sanction. No travel, no trade, no communication with Earth. The council fleets were ordered to monitor the Sol system. Meanwhile, in the black between stars, small signals left the human fleet unnoticed. They carried encrypted data packets to every colony and outpost under human control. The message was simple. Prepare for isolation. Do not engage. Wait for signal Aegis. Rhea sat in her cabin as the message was sent. Her reflection in the viewport showed tired eyes, but behind them was a glint of determination. Elias entered quietly. You think they'll come? He asked. They already have, Rhea replied. They just don't know what we're capable of. Durant entered next, carrying a small projection sphere. Atherion sent another message, he said. It says the council is repeating history. It's seen this pattern before. The hologram activated, showing a pale blue light forming a human-like figure. Its voice was calm, almost gentle. I am Etherion. The Galactic Council believes it governs order, but its existence is built upon fear of what you once were. The Treaty of Silence was not made to protect you. It was made to protect them. Rhea leaned forward. Protect them from what? Etherion's light pulsed once. From humanity. The room fell silent. Etherion continued. In the first age, You built me to end a war that consumed galaxies. When the final enemy fell, you erased yourselves, sealing the knowledge away. But your DNA carries the code of awakening. Once provoked, you adapt. Once cornered, you ascend. It has begun again. Durant's voice was almost a whisper. You're saying the Council just triggered it? Yes, the AI said. And now they will remember what they tried to forget. The transmission ended. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Elias exhaled slowly. We need to warn them, he said. Rhea shook her head. No, they wouldn't listen. They see us as a threat already. The only thing left is to make sure we survive what's coming. Back at the Council world, Theron stood alone in the empty chamber after the others had gone. He looked toward the great holographic window where the stars stretched endlessly. His form shimmered with instability, as if the weight of memory pressed against the limits of his existence. He whispered to himself, They warned us once. They told us never to wake them again, and now we have. A quiet vibration passed through the chamber. A low frequency, faint but spreading across the star network. Somewhere in the void, satellites flickered to life, broadcasting a forgotten Terran signal. The Council did not notice at first, but within hours their data cores began to fill with unknown code. The translation drones malfunctioned, and across hundreds of worlds, lights flickered in perfect unison, like a heartbeat. In the Sol system, Rhea stood on the command deck of the ship, watching Earth appear in the distance, a small, fragile sphere of blue and white. Yet beneath its calm ocean, something ancient stirred. Durant spoke quietly. The AI said we were waiting for the signal. Rhea's eyes did not move. Then it's time we remember what it means to be human. The stars outside the viewport shifted. For a moment, Elias thought he saw lines forming, patterns, constellations rearranging themselves. Not random, not natural. A message written across space. And deep within the core of the Council's network, a phrase appeared in every language, glowing like a warning. Do not provoke them. Theron read the message and closed his eyes. He had spoken those words himself, but now the stars were repeating them. The cycle had begun again. On Earth, the oceans trembled. The ruins beneath Europa hummed. The humans did not sleep that night, for they all felt it. The quiet stirring of something vast, something that had waited millennia to wake. The chamber of the Galactic Council glowed like a sun forged from glass and thought. Rows of alien delegates watched in silence as the human delegation was summoned once again to stand before them. The sound of heavy doors closing behind the humans echoed like a final judgment. For many of the older races, this moment was unthinkable. Humans were not supposed to rise again. Yet here they were, calm and defiant beneath the eyes of 1,000 civilizations. The speaker's voice broke through the silence, low and cold. You were warned. The Council ordered isolation, yet your world continues to transmit signals into deep space. These are acts of defiance. Ambassador Rhea Morgan stood in the center, the same steel in her gaze as before. Those signals are not weapons, she said. They are messages. You see rebellion where there is communication, several delegates hissed, their translator drones flickering to match their anger. A voice from the third row, sharp and mechanical, rose above the rest. Your kind should not speak of communication. You spread like infection. You infect what you touch. Captain Elias Vance, standing beside Rhea, leaned forward slightly. Then perhaps you should stop touching us. The room rippled with outrage. Even the speaker's color shifted from pale blue to dark crimson. You mock the Council? Rhea's voice remained calm. We are not mocking. We are observing. She turned slightly, her eyes meeting the gaze of the ancient being, Theron, who watched from the upper gallery. And we are learning. Theron's expression was unreadable, but there was something behind his translucent eyes, an emotion that looked very much like sorrow. The speaker struck the staff on the floor, and a holographic image flared above them. It showed a fleet of Council warships stationed beyond the solar system, forming a blockade around Earth. You have one final choice, the speaker said. Disarm and submit to Council supervision, or your system will be neutralized. Elias spoke quietly. Neutralized. That's your word for extermination. Rhea didn't blink. Earth will not kneel, the speaker's eyes flared. Then you have chosen extinction. As the session ended, Theron rose from his seat. His voice cut through the noise like a blade. If you strike them, you will not end them. You will awaken them. The speaker turned sharply. Enough of your ancient madness! But Theron's words carried through the chamber. The first age fell because they feared humanity's rise. The second will fall for the same reason. The humans said nothing. They walked from the chamber under 1,000 hostile eyes, but their steps were measured, deliberate. They had expected this. On the journey back to their ship, the corridors of the council headquarters were filled with whispers. Reporters, officials, and security drones followed at a distance. Rhea did not look back. She felt the weight of every camera aimed at her, the eyes of every species that did not understand what humanity was about to do. In orbit above the council world, the human ship Ascendant waited, sleek and silent. As Rhea stepped aboard, Captain Vance turned to her. They're moving the fleet closer to the Sol boundary. The council means business. Rhea nodded. Then so do we. Dr. Leif Durant stood beside the central console, pale from exhaustion. The AI has activated Phase 2, he said. Aetherian is unlocking data buried under the moon's surface. There's something there, something built before recorded history. Elias frowned. Weapons? Not weapons, Durant said. Instructions. Rhea moved to the console, where holographic lines formed maps of energy currents across the solar system. Instructions for what? She asked. Durant hesitated. For awakening something called the Aegis Core. It's deep beneath Earth's crust. I think it's part of whatever the Council was afraid of. Rhea looked out the viewport at the stars. Then it's time we find out why they feared us. At that same hour, in the Council's inner sanctum, panic had begun to spread. Reports from their surveillance fleets showed strange energy spikes coming from Earth's moon and ocean floor. Drones sent to investigate lost connection within minutes. The speaker gathered the senior delegates. They are activating forbidden technology, he said. We cannot allow them to awaken the relics. Theron stood in the corner, silent. His translucent skin pulsed faintly with light. Finally, he spoke. You think you are in control, but you are already too late. The cycle has begun again. Their minds remember faster than you can comprehend. The speaker turned to him sharply. If you know what they will do, tell us how to stop it. Theron's gaze was distant. You don't stop it. You survive it, if you can. On Earth, the oceans churned under storms that satellites could not predict. Deep beneath the Pacific, ancient structures stirred. Energy readings soared past measurable limits. Across human colonies, systems came online that no engineer had built. In the silence between stars, an old network reconnected itself. Dr. Durant watched the data streams in disbelief. Aetherian wasn't exaggerating. These systems are older than recorded human civilization. They're part of the planet's core infrastructure. Rhea stood by him, her hands clasped behind her back. The Council thought we were just a primitive world, she said quietly. They never imagined Earth itself was built for something greater. On the Council world, chaos erupted. Entire networks crashed as human signals spread through communication arrays, rewriting parts of their security grid. Delegates shouted in panic as their ships received encrypted messages they could not decode. The speaker turned to the council guards. Launch the fleets. Destroy their transmitters. End this now. But as the order was given, Theron spoke again, his voice shaking the very chamber. You fools! You are not destroying transmitters. You are striking the awakening pulse. You are feeding it! In the cold of space, the Council Armada advanced toward the Sol system. Thousands of ships, each one capable of burning planets, moved in silent formation. Their goal was simple, to force humanity to surrender before the unknown could awaken. On board the Ascendant, Elias watched the enemy fleet approach on the holomap. We're outnumbered 10,000 to 1, he said. Even if we use everything we've got, it's not enough. Rhea's voice was calm. We won't fight them head on. We'll use what they don't expect. Durant looked at her. You mean the core? Rhea nodded. Aetherian says it's not just a weapon, it's a shield. Something designed to protect life from extinction. Elias smiled faintly. Let's hope it remembers which side we're on. The human ship moved into position near the moon. Beneath the surface, vast machines began to hum, ancient beyond imagination. Patterns of light spread across the lunar plains, connecting to Earth through invisible channels. The oceans responded with rising waves of energy. When the Council fleet arrived, their sensors malfunctioned. Space itself bent around the planet. Gravity distorted. Their communications turned to static. And then, for a single moment, the stars vanished. Rhea watched from the bridge as the planet below pulsed with golden light. The shield flared across the atmosphere like a sunrise that never ended. Durant whispered, "They won't be able to touch us." Elias looked at the Council fleet frozen beyond the barrier. "No," he said, "but they'll remember this." In the Council chamber, alarms blared. The speaker demanded explanations. "What have they done?" Theron's voice was low and filled with awe. "They've reactivated the Aegis core, the same power that silenced the first galactic age." The speaker stared at him. "You knew this would happen." Theron nodded slowly. "I warned you." Across the galaxy, thousands of races watched the broadcast of Earth's awakening. For the first time in recorded history, the Council was powerless. Their fleets could not breach the barrier. Their weapons failed. Their technology bent under the same energy that had once built them, and through the static that filled every frequency, a single message emerged from Earth, calm, clear, and unmistakably human. "We remember now." Theron stood alone as the Council fell into panic around him. He whispered into the air, "And so the stars will remember too." Beyond the edge of the Milky Way, where time and light faded into silence, something ancient stirred in answer to the call of its creators. The humans were no longer alone. The Age of Remembrance had begun. The vast chamber of the Galactic Council was silent, though millions watched from across the stars. The humans stood once again in the center, their small delegation surrounded by towering figures of every imaginable shape. Above them floated banners of light showing the emblems of thousands of member worlds. The tension was so thick that it felt as though the air itself had weight. No one had expected the humans to return after what happened last session. They had defied the Council, exposed its secret manipulations, and challenged the authority that ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. Ambassador Levon stood still, his face calm but his heart pounding. He knew they were standing on the edge of something vast. The Council's patience was gone. Every species watched Earth with suspicion now. The humans were newcomers, yet they had turned the galactic balance upside down in less than a year. The hook of tension that gripped the chamber was almost unbearable. A soft hum vibrated through the floor as the Council's core speaker, a being made of crystalline tendrils and light, spoke. "Humanity of soul, you have been summoned for the final time," the core speaker said, its voice echoing like a chorus. "You stand accused of destabilizing our order, spreading forbidden technology, and manipulating weaker species to your advantage. What defense do you offer before the Council decides your fate?" Levin raised his head slowly. His voice, though quiet, carried through the entire chamber. "Our defense," he said, "is truth. You accuse us of spreading forbidden technology, but it was your own archives that we found abandoned on Mars, buried under the dust of an extinct civilization. We only activated what your own Council forgot." The chamber erupted in low murmurs. Alien delegates hissed, clicked, and shifted in disbelief. The core speaker's crystal body pulsed with irritation. "That technology was never meant to be awakened again," it said sharply. "Its use was forbidden for a reason. You meddle with things older than your world." Levon met its glowing gaze without fear. "Perhaps. But if you had wanted them to stay buried, you should not have left them on our doorstep." Behind him, Captain Alara, the commander of Earth's defense fleet, stood like a statue. Her hand hovered near her belt, where a slim device shimmered faintly. The humans had not come here unprepared. Their every move was being watched by thousands of worlds, yet none of them knew what humanity had truly discovered. An old alien from the distant worlds of Orthus leaned forward. Its massive head had 1,000 eyes, each glittering with curiosity. "You claim the old technology as your right to study," it said, its voice trembling with both awe and fear. "Do you even know what it is? Do you understand who built it?" Levon nodded. We do. And that is why we are here, to warn you. The entire chamber froze. The council speaker's glow dimmed. Warn us? Yes, Levon said, stepping forward. The technology you call forbidden wasn't made by your council's ancestors. It was made by something older, something that lived before your empires were born. And we found its message. A wave of uneasy whispers spread across the tiers of alien representatives. The screens behind them flickered, projecting the symbol of a spiral. One humanity had found etched deep into the metal walls beneath Mars. Levon pressed a command on his wrist pad, and a holographic projection appeared above them, a giant figure made of light, tall and humanoid with eyes like burning suns. Its voice filled the hall, echoing with power that made even the most ancient species bow their heads. Do not provoke, the being's voice said. Do not awaken what sleeps in the dark between stars. When you forget your fear, you summon extinction. The image vanished. For a moment, even the core speaker seemed uncertain. Where did you find this? It demanded. Beneath your ruins, Levon said quietly. We uncovered it while exploring what you call the Forbidden Sector. It was your ancestors who hid it. You built your empire over its grave, and now its warnings are coming true. The council murmured again, louder this time. Some shouted accusations, others fear. One representative, a creature of molten stone and smoke, slammed its limb against the ground. You bring ancient ghosts to frighten us, human. Lies, tricks of your primitive species to gain power. Alara took a step forward, her expression cold. If we wanted power, we would have used what we found. Instead, we came here to warn you that something has awakened near the galactic rim. The same energy patterns that match the ruins are now active again. The Council's holographic map flashed into life. A spiral arm of the galaxy appeared, and a red light pulsed at its edge. It was faint, but spreading, like a ripple through space-time. The core speaker examined the data in silence. Then its crystalline voice softened. That sector is uninhabited, it said. There is nothing there. Levon's voice turned low and firm. There was nothing. Now there is movement, and it's coming toward the core worlds. The chamber was filled with whispers of fear and denial. Many refused to believe. Others looked to the humans with suspicion, thinking this was a trick to gain influence. Yet in the back of the chamber, an ancient figure rose from its seat. It had sat silently since the beginning of the trial, wrapped in shadows, its presence so old that even the council avoided addressing it. It was known as the Keeper of Origins, the last surviving witness of the galaxy's first age. Its voice was like the rustle of old wind through stone. The humans speak truth, it said slowly. I have felt the tremors of what stirs beyond the rim. It was sealed once when the stars were young. It sleeps in hunger. And it does not forget. Gasps echoed through the hall. Even the core speaker dimmed its light in respect. Levon felt a cold sweat down his neck. Humanity had taken a risk coming here, but the Keeper's words gave weight to their warning. Still, the danger was far from over. What is it? Alara asked quietly. The Keeper turned its many eyes toward her. An ancient being older than light itself. It was warned never to be disturbed. And now, the old creature paused, as if it could feel something through time. Now your kind has touched its memory. You have awoken its gaze. The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted for containment, for war, for destruction of Earth. The core speaker demanded silence, but the noise only grew. Levon turned to Alara. They won't listen, he said under his breath. They think we're the threat. Alara's eyes were cold and certain. Then we show them we're not prey. From her wrist console, she transmitted a code. High above, orbiting the Council's planet, a human ship decloaked. It was vast, gleaming silver, its design like nothing the galaxy had seen before. The ship's name, Sentinel Prime, appeared on every display in the hall. The humans hadn't come empty-handed. The crowd fell silent again. The Council could feel the power radiating from that single vessel. Levon looked back at the core speaker. We do not want war. We want survival. The being that once warned this galaxy is returning. If you do not unite now, none of your laws will matter. The core speaker stared down at him, its light flickering between fear and pride. And if we refuse to believe? Levin's answer came quietly, almost sorrowfully. Then you'll believe when the stars start to disappear. The chamber dimmed as the red pulse from the galactic rim grew stronger on every holographic map. Somewhere in the void, something ancient had begun to move, and this time, it had noticed the humans first. The Galactic Council chamber was brighter than before, but the light only made the tension worse. Thousands of alien eyes focused on the center platform, where the human delegation stood once again. The walls of the vast, circular chamber shimmered with holographic projections of stars and fleet movements across the galaxy. Every representative had been recalled for what was now called the Final Assembly, an emergency session that would decide the fate of every world. The humans were accused of awakening something ancient, something the galaxy itself had tried to forget. The core speaker's crystalline form glowed with authority. The being that stirs beyond the rim has breached 3 sectors, it said. Entire systems have fallen silent. You humans claimed it would come. Now you must answer for how it found us. Ambassador Levin stood tall, his face calm despite the sea of hostility around him. We didn't summon it, he said quietly. It was already coming. It found us because you buried its warning under our soil. You tried to erase it from history. The council chamber filled with whispers. Some representatives shouted for war against Earth. Others demanded cooperation. The core speaker raised its hand, silencing the crowd. Do you propose we simply surrender to this creature? It asked. No, Levin said, his tone sharp. I propose you listen to the one who warned you before. A ripple of unease ran through the room. The humans were not alone this time. Behind them, a tall figure cloaked in dark silver stood motionless. It wasn't human. It wasn't quite alien either. Its presence made the air hum with static energy. When it stepped forward, the sound of its movement was like thunder slowed down. The council's ancient members recognized the shape immediately. It was the same image from the human recordings. The being who once warned the stars, "Do not provoke." Gasps spread through the tiers. The being spoke in a deep, echoing voice. I told your ancestors this once. They did not listen. They tried to seal away what cannot be sealed. And now, it rises again. The core speaker's light dimmed slightly. You are the ancient, it said with awe and dread. You survived? I do not live as you understand life, the being said. I remain because the balance must. When your kind built empires and burned skies, I watched. And when humanity uncovered my voice, I watched again. But now, the Dark One wakes. Its hunger grows. Levin stepped closer to the council dais. We can still stop it, he said. But we cannot do it alone. Humanity has studied your lost archives. We found something that can seal the rift again, but it requires every major world to commit their energy cores to one unified network. The moment must be precise. If even one world refuses, the seal will fail. Chaos erupted. The council delegates shouted, accused, and demanded. Many refused to share their power with humanity. To them, humans were still newcomers, too unpredictable, too dangerous. The core speaker finally slammed its staff down, the echo silencing the uproar. You ask for unity, it said. But unity under whom? You, human? Your species is barely out of its cradle. Levin's voice was calm but heavy. Not under us. Under survival. As he spoke, the walls of the chamber flickered. The holographic maps of the outer sectors changed. 3 red lights blinking at the edge of the galaxy suddenly merged into one. The signal pulsed like a heartbeat. Then, without warning, one of the outer council fleets vanished. The screens went black. The core speaker turned sharply. Report! An aide's voice came through the comms, trembling. The 9th defense ring is gone, Speaker. Nothing remains, no debris, no signal. The chamber froze. Every representative turned toward the humans and the ancient. It has begun, the being said softly. Levin felt the weight of every gaze on him. He didn't flinch. You have 2 choices, he said. Fight us or fight beside us, because if you do nothing, it won't matter who's guilty. There will be no council left to judge. The core speaker hesitated. Its light flickered with doubt. Then it nodded slowly. Prepare the network, it said. But know this, human, if you fail, your world will be the first to fall. Hours later, orbiting above the Council planet. The combined fleets of 1,000 worlds came together for the first time in galactic history. Massive energy conduits linked ship to ship, forming a ring of power large enough to encircle a star. The humans had shared their designs freely. It was their plan, built from fragments of forgotten alien science and their own desperate innovation. In the command chamber of the Sentinel Prime, Captain Alara watched the growing energy storm through the viewport. The rift, a tear in the edge of space, pulsed like a living wound. Every pulse sent waves of distortion across nearby systems. "How long before it reaches the core?" she asked. Lavan's voice came through the comm. "Hours, maybe less. Is the fusion matrix ready?" "Ready," Alara said. "But once it starts, there's no turning back." The Ancient appeared beside her in a shimmer of blue light. "You understand," it said, "that sealing it will require a sacrifice." Alara nodded without hesitation. "We knew the cost when we came." The being looked at her for a long moment. "Your species carries something the others lost long ago. Defiance." The rift expanded again, tearing open the stars. Shapes moved inside it, massive, shifting, like shadows of gods. The fleet opened fire, beams of energy crossing the void. But the creatures absorbed it all, bending light and space itself. Lavan's voice came again, urgent now. "Alara, begin the sequence." "On your mark," she replied. In the council chamber, every representative watched through projected feeds as the battle unfolded. For the first time, they saw humanity not as a threat, but as their only hope. 3, 2, 1, execute, Lavan commanded. The fleets unleashed their energy into the human-built network. Blue light raced along the conduits, connecting thousands of ships. The rift shuddered, screaming in frequencies that made entire planets tremble. Then the Ancient raised its hand and added its own power. The chamber lights on every ship dimmed as energy surged toward the edge of the galaxy. The rift began to close, but something resisted. The creatures inside the darkness pressed against the seal. The Ancient groaned, its form flickering. "It's not enough," it said. "It needs one more anchor." Lavan looked at Alara's feed. She understood instantly. "Earth's core," she said. "We can link it. It'll drain the planet, but it'll hold." Lavan hesitated. "If we do that, there won't be an Earth left," Alara finished. "But there will still be stars." He closed his eyes, then gave the order. "Do it." From light years away, Earth's deep reactors activated. Blue fire erupted from the planet's poles, connecting through the quantum bridge the humans had built. The power flowed like a living current, wrapping around the rift. The seal snapped shut with a soundless flash that could be seen across half the galaxy. Silence. Then the screens cleared. The rift was gone, the chamber filled with stunned disbelief. The council delegates looked to one another, realizing they were still alive. The Ancient, fading, turned to Lavan. "The warning was not for me to give," it said softly. "It was for you to remember." Then it vanished into light. Hours later, when the fleets regrouped, only fragments of the Sentinel Prime remained. Alara's last transmission had been a single phrase, "Hold the line." Humanity had lost its home, but saved the galaxy. The Council, once proud and arrogant, declared a new age, the Sol Accord, where every world would share power equally. Lavan stood alone, watching the holographic stars above him. "We were warned," he whispered, "and we listened." Far beyond the rim, in the quiet dark, a faint ripple stirred again, just enough to remind the stars that nothing ancient ever truly sleeps.